Hi everyone, today let's learn how to tell a short story in English using past tense verbs and time words. We'll use Lynn's magical adventure as an example. Let's get started.
One evening, Lynn found an old dusty book in the library. As she flipped through its pages, a strange map slipped out. It had no words, only mysterious symbols and a big red X in the center. "A treasure map," Lynn whispered, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Suddenly, the map began to glow. A strong wind rushed through the room, and before she could react, whoosh, she was no longer in the library. Lynn looked around. She was in a dense jungle, surrounded by giant trees and chirping birds. The map was still in her hands, and now the symbols made sense. They pointed her toward a hidden path. "Okay, let's follow this," she said, stepping carefully over vines and rocks. As she walked, she heard a rustling noise. Was it an animal? A person? She turned around but saw nothing. Then she reached an ancient stone gate covered in vines. The map showed a strange puzzle, 3 shapes and a missing piece. In front of her were 3 stones, one shaped like a star, one like a moon, and one like a sun. Which one should I choose? She wondered. She thought about the red X on the map. X marks the spot, but X also means crossing paths. Maybe the sun because it rises and sets, she guessed, and placed the sun-shaped stone into the empty space. The ground rumbled. The stone gate slowly opened, revealing a golden chest. Inside, instead of gold, there was a glowing book. Lynn picked it up and opened the first page. It was filled with English words and grammar rules. "A magical book of knowledge?" she gasped. Just then, a strong wind blew again. Whoosh! She was back in the library, holding the book in her hands. The map had disappeared. Lynn smiled. Maybe the real treasure wasn't gold, but knowledge.
Now that you've seen part of Lynn's magical journey, let's take a closer look at how we can tell a story in English. We'll learn how to use past tense verbs and time words like first, then, and finally. You can use these in your own stories too. Let's take a look at how it works. First, Lynn found a map. Found is the past tense of find. For example, I found my keys under the couch. Then she followed the path through the jungle. Followed is the past tense of follow. For example, we followed the crowd to the concert. Suddenly, she heard a noise and turned around. Heard is the past tense of hear, and turned is the past tense of turn. For example, I heard someone call my name, so I turned around. Finally, she chose the sun-shaped stone. Chose is the past tense of choose. For example, she chose the red dress for the party. The stone gate opened slowly. Opened is the past tense of open. For example, I opened the window to let in fresh air. She stepped over vines and rocks. Stepped is the past tense of step. For example, he stepped over the puddle to keep his shoes dry. She flipped through the pages. Flipped is the past tense of flip. For example, I flipped through the magazine while waiting at the doctor's office. She whispered, "A treasure map?" Whispered is the past tense of whisper. For example, he whispered the answer to me during the test. The ground rumbled and the stone gate slowly opened. Rumbled is the past tense of rumble. For example, the thunder rumbled in the distance before the storm arrived. Now it's your turn. Try to tell a short story using these time words and past tense verbs. It could be a real event or a fun adventure like Lynn's. If you liked this lesson, Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time. We'll see you next time with a brand new story.